Well. Hey, guys, welcome to the show. This is Terry with NSPS TV Paranormal Podcast. Now, I know tonight, guys, on my Facebook page, it says that I have a podcast with Backwood Paranormal out of Georgia, but those guys had something come on, so I had to uh, get a substitute. And guess what I found? I found two lovely young ladies that would love to come on the show and tell me a little bit about Louisiana. Yeah, you guys know Louisiana. Louisiana is one of those states I've been having problems with getting paranormal teams and people on the show. So it's an honor for these young ladies to come on and tell me a little bit about their what they got, their ventures and what they got going on over there. So, but when I get back from commercial, I'm going to introduce these guys, and then once I do that, they're going to come on, tell a little bit, and we're just going to have some fun. You know what I'm saying? Oh, I hope everybody have their zingers because, hey, I eat zingers and they're not paying me for it. That's okay. Still represent the zingers, but so I hope everybody has zingers today. But I will be right back in a minute. So hang on to your hats, guys. All right, guys, welcome back to the Lion's Den. You guys know who I am. I'm tired of introducing myself, but hey, let's talk to my guests today, man. I am so honored to have these two ladies on the show. Berndine, Richardson, you're the reason why all this has come together because I reached out to you, man. I'm really appreciated you calling me back. Or did I email you? I think I called you.
You called me.
I called you, just like I call everybody else. Hey, tell the world a little bit about Bernadette Richardson.
Berndine Richardson.
Rndine.
I'm so used to hearing that song from the Four Tops.
I don't know if you guys ever heard that. For Berndine, but they also have Bernadette.
Yeah.
I get called Bernadette a lot. That's just more of a common name than Berndine. But yeah.
Just call her Dean, Terry.
Dean.
Yeah. Dean.
Okay, can I call you Dean or Miss Richardson?
Dean.
All right, Dean.
Yeah, that's a lot easier to remember. 4 letters versus 13. Yep.
Yeah, there you go. You got a long name there.
I don't even know. See, that's why I didn't get a middle name.
Man, you got a big name there.
I didn't know that. It's like, hell, we named her Bernadine. Yeah. I can't think of another name.
Well, my grandmother was Bernice, and my aunt was Geraldine on my father's side. So, Bernadine.
Bernadine.
There you go. That song.
Yeah. So, yeah, I have a team called Louisiana State Paranormal Research Society since 2008, and we're from Lafayette, Louisiana. We're based out of there. We're in a little town called Abbeville. Most of my team members are. And we're a paranormal investigative group. Go out and investigate hauntings, help people out.
Okay, interesting. All right. Now, do you have a nickname or do you like to be called? Let me see if I can get this name right.
I got a lot of names, but I don't want to repeat them.
Alyne?
It's Alyne.
Alyne.
Right.
It's just way it's
Dean and
spelled so
Alyne.
unusual.
I know. My mother, where you see the Y, you usually see an I,
Mm-hmm.
Aline, but she changed it to a Y, and then stuck me with that last name, and it's been like my whole life. It's just whenever, like in
Last,
school, when
why?
teachers would say, and I just raised my hand. I'm here when because they were just trying to struggle. So it's Aline. Just think of the song "Come On, Eileen." You could call me Eileen. It's not a problem, but it's like that's what it is, Aline with
Okay.
Berndine, Dean and Aline. But yeah, I'm from New Orleans, lifelong resident, hometown, most haunted city in America, and I was one of the most haunted people that I know is me because we've had I've just been experiencing the supernatural since I was as long as I can remember, and since let's see, I don't know, a few years back, Dean and I met in 2007, and
Mm-hmm.
she and I worked together a lot to sort of enlighten people about paranormal investigating and some of the dangers, the supernatural dangers that they can open themselves to when they're not careful about what they're doing or when they're not taking things seriously enough, or and a lot of people will investigate and not really. We used to hear a lot of people saying they don't believe in that. They're skeptics. They want to be proven right. And just because they don't believe in it doesn't mean it's not real, and it's not real
Mm-hmm.
consequences. So, in addition to that, I've written a couple of books, Haunting Tales of Old New Orleans. The first one is called History, Legends, and Lore. I intended to be a series, but that's the first one. And it talks about some little known actual stories, actual hauntings that basically took place in the city. You hear a lot about the vampires, Madame LaLaurie, all the usual, but there are others that really happen that have a kernel of truth in them. And so I just tell the stories around it. And then some of the lore that supports basically the creatures that you're meeting in the stories. And then I also have a book called Risks Incidental, and it's basically goes over those supernatural dangers with some life experiences. I just throw in some of my experiences, and it took me a long time to understand what I was experiencing there, so it made me want to research when I got older and study the occult and understand what was happening at home. So, so that's where I came to it. And, that's what I do.
Oh wow.
Dean
You
and I
got
got, Dean and I get together, and that's basically what we talk about. And we help people just like paranormal investigators help people. We help people who are scared and whatever they need, if what they may have is a haunting. Sometimes Dean might not be able to really pin it down, and she'll say, well, look, they're having this. So together we put our heads together and we can come up with, what's actually happening. But that's where I am.
Now, from my understanding, you guys have a podcast also, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Tell-
Supernatural Substation. It's we had it several years ago on the UPRN radio network, and then we kind of took a little break from it, and we relaunched it now on YouTube. So Supernatural Substation, we have some great guests because that woman right there is the producer. She is the rock, and we got some great guests. Yeah, she's a producer. I'm just the, whatever. I'm just the placeholder for this. But no, she gets some great guests, and we have some great guests coming up like Bill Bean. And I'm sitting here thinking of guests that I can get for you too. So guests in our area.
Well,
But yeah, next week we got Bill Bean. We've already interviewed Bill Bean. We interviewed Nick Simons and Keith Age, and we had who did we have? Dacre Stoker, with Bram Stoker's descendants. So we've had some good stuff. Yeah, and we've
how did y'all pull that off?
Just ask. I think. How'd you do that,
Whoa.
Dean? You made some promises.
No.
No.
Make some of that home cooked food.
Oh.
Over in her area.
We still have a lot of people in our circle from our last show that I reached out to because we were on for what, 3 years?
3.5, something like that. And we also had a co-host, Pete Haviland, who was with Lone Star Paranormal in Texas, and then he passed away while we were just in hiatus from the show. So So every show we do is basically dedicated to him because we really miss him. So, but yeah, we had some really good. When I look back and I was like, we had really good guests. Let's see if we can get them and some more. So I'm proud of that. That we got that. And Dean rocks though. It's just her.
Okay. You know what? It seems like you ladies are busy little bees, man. You guys got a lot going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
B, let's talk about Lafayette because my son did go to school there for 2 years. And every time I went down there and I was just looking for a place to investigate, and I could not find anything.
Well, it's even hard for me to get places to investigate. For some reason, they're just tight with it. It has to be up to them to call me to say, hey, we're having this problem. Can you come investigate? Because I've done restaurants and my team has done the city hall and places like that. But it's because they were having problems. We do residences also. We help a lot of people. But for like fun and research and all, the place to go is New Orleans.
Yep.
Yeah. Because bed and breakfasts are good, especially the historical ones. That's the best ones to do. But their business is mostly booming on weekends. And that's when we do investigations on weekends. So we can't get into a lot of those without interrupting their business. And restaurants, we have to wait till they close down before we can go in. So we do everything at night. Of course, you know that. We investigate at night while everybody else is sleeping.
Yeah, apparently that's when all the creepiness come out at night. All right, guys. I'd like to welcome everybody, man, from all the platforms that we are streaming live to tonight. I hope you guys will come on and ask these young ladies a million and one questions. So all you guys that are on Kick, hey, I appreciate you guys coming on the show. Rumble, I appreciate you guys coming on the show. Instagram, hey, you know how I feel about IG. And all you Twitter followers out there, hey, welcome. Also, YouTube and Facebook and Facebook International, UK and Japan. So, hey, all you guys that are out there in the world, welcome to the show, man. I really appreciate it. You guys have any comments, anything that you want to ask these young ladies, feel free to drop them in the comments, and I'm pretty sure they'll be able to see them, and they will answer them, as long as it's not too crazy. You know what I'm saying?
We're used to crazy.
Now, Alyne, you mentioned something. I'm just gonna start debating. Have a good debate with you right now. You mentioned something literally 2 minutes ago, and you said New Orleans is the haunted city in the country or in your state?
Some people think it's in the country. I mean, those of us that live here like to root for our own city as most haunted. But it is over 300 years old. So it's one of the oldest.
How do you think? How would you think those people in Georgia would feel about that? Because they say Savannah is the most haunted city in the country.
Yeah, well, and I agree. It's very haunted. It's neither here nor there. It's just something you said. Look, if I was in Savannah, I'd say Savannah was the most haunted city because haunted is haunted, old is haunted. So a lot of the older cities in the South, Florida, that's what you get. They are. But I mean, I didn't peg my city as the most haunted. It's usually done by people from the outside. But
exactly.
It's pretty damn haunted though.
Yeah. B, what is that town just south of Lafayette? They've been on the TV. It's probably one of the most oldest towns in Louisiana, but I can't think of the name of it. They were on TV a bunch of times. What is the name of it? What's the name of it?
Homa?
No,
South of Lafayette. Wow. What do you think,
Yeah,
Dean?
it's just south of Lafayette. Matter of fact, if you go down, if you take the next road as you coming in to where the college is, that main road, you take that
Thibodeau?
next highway and
Mhm.
make that right. It takes you right into that town.
New Iberia?
No.
Edgard?
Mm-mm.
Same old
Opelousas?
deal. We got a
What
lot.
is it? But you know what? It'll hit me as we go off the show. I'm like, man, what
Mhm.
the hell?
You might be talking about where Jeremy Leonard is. He's the
Morgan City?
Olive.
Morgan City.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
There you
Jeremy's great.
go.
Hmm.
Morgan City. Have you guys been there?
Yes, I
Yeah.
have family there.
What
Mhm.
kind of feel do you get for that town?
I'll have to give it to you, Dean, because mostly I just drove through it. I mean, onto
Yeah,
other places.
it's a small town. Homa's a little bit bigger, and it's right next door to Morgan City. I have family in Homa, so I've been there mostly. But yeah, they've been a lot of filming done in Morgan City. I haven't done any investigations there. I've done one close to there. I don't know if you remember the one in Gray, Louisiana.
Hmm. Yeah, I remember.
I did. I had got an apparition that was forming in a TV screen. Like the TV was off. It was a big smart TV, but in the living room they had these people, the clients. They had it was a python. They had a lot of pythons.
Well, I remember that.
You
Yeah.
remember that?
Wow.
Yeah, they had python cages. I can't call it a cage, it's aquarium.
Terrarium. Yeah, aquariums.
All around the room. The whole room was full of big, huge python in like stacked up. They had a tarantula. Yeah, it was kind of spooky to go in there, but in that room, I guess because you need so much electricity to keep the 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 snakes warm,
Mm-hmm.
and then they were already having paranormal activity and things that were going on in the house. I'm not going to say, but um, they were just into some things that is not normal. so, so
Yeah, I
they were
remember
having
that.
activity and they called me there, but actually in that living room where all the pythons are, that's where the TV was on off. So I was taking pictures from the hallway, and I know not to take it straight into a screen or a mirror because you get a big reflection. So you take
Mm-hmm.
it at an angle. And I always say, my theory, that spirits look out of what we look into.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we capture them, when we capture faces, when we capture apparitions, they're looking at us or a side angle. We don't get the back of their head. So yeah,
Well, yeah, they're looking at us through everything, through mirrors, out of
mirrors,
ponds,
surface,
water, um, everywhere. Yeah, and
anything.
they're right here. I mean, if you stop to think about it, this is how close they are
Yeah.
at any given time.
Now, wouldn't that frighten the average person knowing that that they got a possible spirit that close to them?
I
How
don't
would
know.
you?
We're
Well, I
not
mean,
the
some
average.
person, wait, what?
We're not the average.
Yeah. Well, maybe I should just correct that and say we do. We have them right here.
Yeah.
Mm,
They are that close though, but it's it depends. If you're a person of faith, or you're a good person, or you're not, maybe somebody who doesn't even engage in these interests, it's not going to bother you. It's just being aware that when you think about it, or when you go looking for it, or you're in a situation like where Dean was in, where they can see in, they can see us. Once you have that attention, then they do start coming around you to your aura. They see you in a different way than you would think. What they see you from the other side, and once they know you're looking, then they sort of like pile on. It's almost like a rubbernecking type thing. Let's see what's going on over there. You know,
Right.
that's why when you do investigations and you leave, you have to cleanse yourself. You have to tell them they have to stay there. They can't come home with you. You know, the whole thing. And you know, a lot of people don't take that seriously. But
Right. Now, you guys, Louisiana is not down in the Bible Belt. How do you guys react with those in certain religions? How do you guys get around that? I mean, it's Louisiana is a very, like you say, man, it's a lot of history there, and there is I mean, you smack down in the Bible Belt. I know you guys have trouble with, those church going individuals.
Well, when we speak at conventions, we normally get the big skeptics in the front row, right, Alyne?
Mm,
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I don't believe this. You
Yeah,
know, I don't know, laughing at us and
it's,
pointing it out.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
not real. Mm-hmm.
It's interesting though. Last year I was participated sort of a last minute ad to an event called Fear Fest that a friend of mine was putting on, and I hadn't heard about it, but I just heard about it at the last minute. And there were actually protesters from local churches out there. They basically gave the guy such a hard time that none of the vendors started peeling away. They didn't want to be there. It's you never know. Usually that comes though from different denominations other than Catholic. But in this instance, it was the local Catholic church, and
mhm.
the Fear Fest was basically paranormal horror. They didn't have any other genres. You know, it wasn't like a pop culture fest. It was primarily attempting to be a paranormal convention, and these people basically shut it down. And I know, unfortunately, the guy that organized it is in a lot of debt because of it, and that's a whole big ball of wax. But you really have in New Orleans, it's entirely different because they're just so used to it. You have everything. I mean, and a lot of it is couched in Catholicism, or a lot of voodoo, you know, appropriates the images and the prayers and stuff of Catholicism. A lot of voodoo, also it's Judaism that it harks back to. So, but New Orleans has just been going on so long, and it's so syncretized together among, you know, the practitioners that it's just accepted. But just go 30 minutes away where this convention was, and you know, they basically they didn't shut it down, but they made it impossible to continue it. So if you go further up, like I participated in the Louisiana Ren Fest, and they were always having problems with local people because they'd have tarot card readers, or you'd have a henna artist or whatever, and you know, and they didn't like it, and so I don't know. They finally figured it all out because it's been there for almost 25 years now, I think. But you know, they come out of the woodworks, and they do, you know, you do get a lot of that. I think they're more in the Bible Belt, a little more in Dean's backyard and like Baton Rouge and that area up there, and then North Louisiana. But you know, down here we're Catholics. So we're
Yeah, it's
like, okay.
weird. How is that a state that is so rich in mystery? I mean, everywhere you go, there's something. I mean, and I would think Louisiana would have a lot of believers instead of having a certain people a certain way. You know, dude, the history tells it all.
I
Mhm.
think a lot of people just are afraid of what they don't understand.
I
And
mean,
some people are dedicated skeptics. They're not
yeah,
going to believe anything if you put it in front of their face. It doesn't matter. They're going to say it's fake.
you
Mhm.
know, and let me ask you guys a question. There's a lot of religions that are out in the world, and I've heard this, man, so many times. And I want to ask you guys to see what you guys think. Uh, is voodoo a religion?
Yeah.
So many people practice it. Is it considered a religion?
Voodoo is considered a religion. It is a religious belief, and it harks back to slavery.
Hmm.
Um, Voodoo comes from primarily the West Coast, Dahomey and Congo area, the West Coast of Africa, and it followed the slave trade. And here you get that syncretization where a Catholic will see a statue of St. Peter with the keys to the kingdom. A voodoo practitioner will see St. Peter and think it's Papa Legba, who sits at the crossroads and has the keys to the other world. What happened, though, is during slavery, these Africans wanted to hold on to their beliefs, and so they appeared to accept like this veneer of Catholicism, a veneer of Christianity, and when it'd be St. Joseph or St. Peter or the Blessed Mother, they would have those statues, but in their mind they were worshiping Azuli Dantor or Saint Gerardus Gede, or so they would just use that as sort of the veneer. But it is a religious faith. It's constructed as a religion. Now, what is not a religion is hoodoo, and people get this confused a lot of time. Voodoo even has a structure, whereas hoodoo, that's a visceral folk practice, basically. And it's not just practiced by Black people. It's not just, practiced by other voodoo practitioners. A lot of witchcraft is involved in that. And, it goes back to some old world beliefs mixed in with, sort of the quasi voodoo culture. So voodoo is the religion. The other practices, which are just as potent, or a lot of times more potent than voodoo, are just basic folk beliefs and a kind of witchcraft culture.
Yeah, good. Man, interesting. Have you guys ever come across a situation where you've been called in because somebody was practicing voodoo and conjured up something that they, oh man, just one of those things where, people are like, oh man, I did something. I don't know if I can handle it. It's in my house. It's something that I did when I was practicing voodoo. Have you guys ever came across anything like that before?
Well, we have. Remember the guy in Lafayette, which is practicing blood rituals.
Mm-hmm.
He had a girlfriend that a girl he started seeing that was into the occult and demons and things, Satanism. And he went along with her group and they did a blood ritual. Well, what happened is whatever they called in attached to the weakest link, which was him. And he carried that for years and years and years, and actually thought he was, mentally unstable. They labeled him diagnosed him as schizophrenic. But whenever I had went to talk to him, actually captured some things on EVP. But I didn't tell him that.
I remember that. I'm sorry to laugh, but
when I heard what I heard on that EVP, which I don't let anybody listen to because it affected me that bad, and I do this stuff, but when it sounds like Linda Blair from The Exorcist, I throw it down.
Yeah.
I don't mess with it.
And called me.
I rosary on. I call Alyne. Yeah.
I don't want to hear it. Don't listen to it again. Yeah.
Well, let me answer this question for me, guys. What's the potency on somebody's doing something they shouldn't be doing with voodoo compared to your average paranormal haunting?
Well, I can tell you a little bit of a roundabout story about what voodoo can do. I don't want to give away anybody's name or anything, but there's a person who did basically a love spell, wanting to attract a soulmate, and had in mind somebody that they knew in the past, and basically is a follower of voodoo and went to the Loa. Now, the Loa are the spirits of voodoo. You see it LOA or you see LWA, but he went to the Loa of love, basically, Azuli Frida, and asked for this individual to come, and she wanted her soulmate, and she laid out, and this is the same in ceremonial magic and witchcraft and other practices. She laid out A, B, C, D. This is what I want. This is how I want it. This is what, blah, blah, blah. And at some point, she got exactly what she wanted. The guy came, she saw him, they saw each other, they were together as friends, and she didn't understand why there was no love relationship, why they weren't being together as lovers. And I said, well, tell me, what did you ask for? She said A, B, C, D. And I said, well, what about E? You didn't, if you give them a loophole, if you give the spirits, and this is demonic spirits, voodoo spirits, angelic spirits, you give them a loophole and you don't lay down every single detail of how you want it delivered to you and what you want, then they'll screw you, because these spirits don't like being summoned to serve humans. So if you give them any kind of a loophole, that's why people shouldn't do that. You have to think of, you're trying to command this entity to do something for you. And it ended badly. It really did, because this person kept throwing more on it. This is what I want. This is what I want. And it ended really badly. I mean, the guy died is basically what happened at the end. Wow. Yeah. And I mean, I'm not going to say anything more about who it is or anything, but you got to think it's impossible unless you're some sort of a trained ceremonial magician and has done this. It's really impossible to think of every situation or everything that could possibly happen. If I say, I want this, well, there may be a ... and that comes too. So, it's best not to really fool with it. But when you go in and you're asking the spirits to do something for you, you better be able to tell them this, that, and if that don't happen, then I want this, and lock them into that command. So they are basically chained to do exactly what you want. Because any chance they get to not do it or to screw you over, it's going to happen. It's just their nature, and it's their higher astral beings, and they don't feel like they want to be serving us low physical beings. But that's just an example of voodoo. I say voodoo, but that was really a hoodoo practice, but there was some voodoo ritual in it. But voodoo, hoodoo, whatever you want to call it, it ended bad, and there's a lot of it that ends bad.
Wow, that's crazy. You guys, Louisiana.
Terry, let me add one more that just came to mind. Okay,
yeah,
real quick. A friend of mine is a dancer, and there's a practitioner here who's I don't know if he practices anymore, but he was well known to be a two-handed practitioner. Meant he was good voodoo or good hoodoo and bad. He would do right hand magic and left hand magic. And they were doing a film, like a little commercial spot or something, of him in a cemetery, and they wanted her to dance. And so she did. I told her, I don't know, because the guy's reputation, not that he was a bad person, but that's trouble. Okay. He can do he's going to do good magic or bad magic. And she did. She went, and a couple of weeks later, she had a puppy before this, and the puppy got away from her and got mangled up and torn up by two other dogs that came out of nowhere that she didn't even know were there. And then the dogs went away and killed the puppy. And when she told me that, I'm not going to say I told you so to anybody, but the first thing that came to mind is like, you were in the cemetery with the dead with this two-handed practitioner, you were dancing and you blew the whole thing off, and something bad happened. So that's another example of, like, if they can, they will. So why do it? Why involve yourself with that at all? Unless you're going to dedicate years and years of your life into studying how to do it. But that's just another example.
Wow. You guys are surrounded with a lot of water.
Mm-hmm.
And water has a lot to do with the paranormal.
Well, it's energy.
Yeah, lots. Man, is it at every case that you guys are, especially, is there a every case that you guys have? I mean, how much of energy does these entities have that you, especially in the residential, how much energy does these guys have there in Louisiana? You are surrounded by water, and there's other elements that might contribute to it, but water is a lot. Have there's ever been something that you guys cannot control or have to call somebody else in to help you guys out?
Go on.
Yeah. Because, yeah, like demonic cases, if I know it's a demonic case, I call other people because we don't deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
Because when it comes to that, we're taking a chance on something we're not familiar with. So I call Alyne, and we find the person more help, because a paranormal investigator, just a paranormal investigator, cannot go in and battle a demon. I'm sorry, you just can't. We're not prepared for that. That's not what we do. We do research, and I don't want to have to deal with that for research purposes and take the chance of bringing that home, or contaminating anything with my team, because a lot of people, they have children, and I feel, Alyne could probably back it up, but I feel that they'll go after your family and your friends and the things that you love. Zingers.
I don't have one.
The things that you most love to get to you.
Yeah, they will. And the drowned like company. So bodies of water like ponds and still bayous and stuff like that, where people have drowned or things have gone on in the past, maybe in the really distant past, but battles that have taken place and all, that holds the energy too. An interesting thing about Hurricane Katrina, when Hurricane Katrina came through and the levees failed, the water inundated the whole city, and the Superdome is there's always been this myth about it being cursed because it was built on top of cemeteries. Well, it was built on top of two old cemeteries that they cleared the way to build this thing on. And they used to say the Saints can't win. Saints can't win because it's built on those cemeteries. Well, after Katrina, it took them a couple of years, but they won the Super Bowl. Well, what happened? All the ground floor of the Superdome was flooded. It all got washed out. If there was anything like a curse or anything, got washed away. And all of a sudden they won the Super Bowl, right? I mean, there's proof of that there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, honestly, I was like, if it would have flooded, they'd still be, they'd never have gotten there. But there, another story from a long time ago, I don't know if I ever told you this, Dean, but I used to work in a place that was surrounded, close to Slidell, which is basically close to where the Honey Island Swamp and all that is. But there was a pond behind, it was a fishing pond, but it was also like a swimming hole. And because it was still semi-rural where it was. And a child drowned back there and was screaming and screaming. Was in the middle of the pond and was screaming and died. And you could go back there. They had a skating rink, like right near it, across like a little field, and then the pond was over there. And the kids would get scared because they could hear the boy screaming, help me, help me, help me. Well, this is a flat pond encircled with land, undisturbed water, and the dead, the drowned, they will lure you into that water. They will lure you there, calling out for help, calling out, and you go to look, and the next thing you know, you're walking out into the water because they want company, because that kind of cold, still water holds the energy. It holds the spirit there. It won't release it. And so that's why you get a lot of people who drown in the same spot, because they hear the people, the dead calling them. So water is very, it's if it's flowing, it's a different story. But if it's stagnant, which a lot of the swamps basically are, they're mostly stagnant, then you got a problem, and it holds the energy.
You know what? You guys are, Louisiana is unique. B, have you ever did a swamp investigation? I see that on TV all the time, man. People are back there investigating, this and that. Have you ever done that personally?
No, I'm not a nature type person. I think
that was 15-foot alligators out there. No.
Yeah, Louisiana, like we have lots of mosquitoes and bugs and snakes and alligators, and I'm not into alligators. Yep, spiders in your hair. I'm not a country girl at all. So
you just look at it when you're driving past.
Look at it, yeah. The swamp thing's not for me. I probably wouldn't even be focused on, paranormal stuff.
Oh,
that's what I would do.
No.
But if you guys ever got that call, would you go?
Yes.
Yeah, I guess I'd go.
Okay.
Could you see me? I'll be waiting. I'll wait right here. Y'all go. I'm in
Mhm.
this walk though, but I'm here. If y'all need me, come.
Right. Alyne, me
Yeah.
and Bernadette had a conversation before she called you about this podcast. Have you ever watched the TV show or the movie?
Supernatural.
Nope, not
Nope.
Supernatural. The one about an interview with a vampire.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay, did you watch the TV show by chance?
No, I
Okay,
haven't yet. I know it exists. I just no,
now
not yet.
it sounds like the TV show has a lot to do with New Orleans history.
Hmm.
Because B was like, well, if you really want to know, you should ask her. Because B brought up it kind of was like a part of what the TV show, but she said it actually happened about New Orleans' first gay uh was it bar or
The
something?
Gemini
Oh,
Line
the upstairs. Are you talking
upstairs.
about the upstairs?
Hmm.
Yeah, the
But if
upstairs.
you but if you go watch the TV show Interview with the Vampire, they had the same thing in that TV show. Now
Well,
I don't know if they did a little research before they produced that, but these guys were oh man, they were gay and they were allegedly some of them were vampires.
well, I understand that the show has brought the whole story forward into the 20th century.
Hmm.
Like, not that the interview wasn't, but most of Louis' story, it took place in the 19th and 18th century or 18th century. So
Hmm.
I understand one thing that I read about it is they brought it forward. I don't know how far into the 20th century they go though, but if they went that far, then they're talking 1973. And you know, American Horror Story came down here with Coven, and they took a lot of liberty with the stories around here, and everything. The Axeman story, there's a woman who owns a store and is a voodoo priestess, and she was actually asked if she's the supreme of the city after seeing the whole Coven thing with the supreme witch. So they do take a lot of license with the stories, like some of them are far-fetched anyway, but to take them even far-fetched, so they may have incorporated that. I haven't had a chance to sit down and watch it, but I read about it and I saw some trailers and stuff. But it was my understanding that they were moving it, so they probably went into the 70s, and I don't know. That is a true event. I mean, Dean and I did an article on it, or a series of articles, and then Bernadine's team was the first team to actually do a full investigation of the upstairs lounge, to actually get in there. People who had gone and looked, but to do an all-night investigation, hers was the first team. And the story, up until that point, I have to honestly say, up until the point where I wrote the articles and we got Dean in there, and then Ghost Hunters heard about it, up until then, it was primarily the gay community that remembered it, and the old line gay community, the ones who were older and were alive and young at the time that it happened. But after that, it blew up, especially after Ghost Hunters, because they were taking my story, and I got in touch with the production company. I was like, no, you're not. You're gonna have to. I'm gonna if you want to use my story, that's fine, but you're gonna. So they did, and we were on for the big 30, 60 seconds of whatever in the beginning of the episode, and even they took a lot of license. They say they solved that crime. They did not solve the crime. The who did it is still unknown, although people have their their ideas about it. And a lot of the gay community has ideas of who, and whoever did it is dead. But it seems like then Interview with the Vampire, the redo, is taking up that story. I don't know how I feel about that though. I mean, I'd have to look at it, because I don't know how I feel about it, because that's taking those people died horrible deaths. There were 32 people who died 28 in there, and there were them 4 others who died outside, or they tried to save, but they couldn't. And it was a horrible story, but now it's been to the point where it just made its 50th anniversary last year, and there's a huge turnout. There's flowers laid, there's a second line parade, a funeral parade, the whole thing. It's a whole big event now. And honestly, I can say Dean and I were like at the beginning of that with our friend Misty, who was basically Misty Gaither. She's a community activist. She's LBG. She's a lesbian and she's gay, and she's gay too. She's a lesbian and she's gay. I mean, she knows a lot of the gay community. She's very popular, but she was looking for someone that knew about it. I was looking for someone to tell the community about it. And somehow or another, her and I came together just by email. One day she reached out, and the two of us came together. Dean was involved with it too. And the next thing you know, it's on Ghost Hunters. Millions of people saw it. The city apologized for the way that they treated the people and the dead and things that were said, because it was back in 1973, and New Orleans was still behind the times. Believe it or not, it was still behind the times. And now it's a yearly thing with the community. So Dean and I promised we'd tell the story, and I'll have to check out interview and see. I had a kind of I don't want to look at it because I like Tom Cruise and I like Brad Pitt. I was like, that's my Lestat and Louis.
Well, when they actually filmed this location and they filmed this in New Orleans, and it gave him a little bit of a modern feel to it. So I really enjoyed the show.
Mm-hmm.
And it put a lot of light on just the way New Orleans was back in, those days, and the way people, reacted towards the gay community, and, the whole brothel things that can be on it. A lot came to the table when watching this TV show. Hey, you know what? I gave it an 8.
Well, Terry, in 73, when it happened in June of 73, at the time, there were laws on the books where if you were like a drag queen or female impersonator was the phrase, you had to have, if you were walking out in the quarter or you were walking out in the street, you had to have at least one piece of male clothing on you. And I don't, that was not as you were performing, I don't think, but you couldn't be dressed fully as a woman and be a man. And it is true that there was on the radio at the time, there were a lot of remarks about, fruit salad and these fags and this and that. It was just terrible. I mean, it was terrible. When they were speaking, while they were doing this, there was the charred body of a man stuck in a burglar bar over the door of the bar that was downstairs. And if you look up the pictures, it's the most horrible picture. This was one of the guys he was not just one of the guys, he was a reverend from the local church who was trying to get out through the bars and got stuck and got burnt there. And they were piled up by the door, one on top of another, trying to get out. There are people, the guy that I made contact with on behalf of a friend went back in there to help people get out, and he died. He had escaped, but he went back in. And they found him and a bunch of people under the piano, and he was the pianist at the time. It was a terrible thing, and it was a terrible thing to make fun of in public on the radio. That was how New Orleans was. It's nothing like it is today. They were very close.
The families didn't want to claim the bodies.
That's
because
true.
They were afraid.
They didn't want to have the shame of claiming their son and saying that we had a gay son. So there are 4 of them. 4 of the bodies were never claimed, although Misty has done a great research and made a great effort to identify who they all were. 4 of them were never claimed, and they originally went into a potter's field in New Orleans called Hope Cemetery. But Misty told me recently that they have moved them to family vaults now. So, but that's how it was. And, it's not surprising. They're not just dramatizing that, because that was foul. That's how that was at the time. And we've come leaps and bounds, obviously, from that period, but we were sort of backwards at the time. I mean, I can't say anything else.
Yeah, I'm glad so much has changed, when it comes to situations like that.
Yeah.
But let's change the subject a little bit because once again, B hit me, and I just gotta ask you guys a question because when I talked to B, and she dawned me, and I told her, I said, "Man, I've just learned something," and I think I did not know there was a difference between supernatural and paranormal. And B had to explain to me that there is a difference, because I thought, once you mention paranormal, so everything that's supernatural, everything that has anything with anything that's dead goes into that paranormal field. But apparently that's not the case. Can you explain that to me? So
Um,
anybody out there that can have a clear understanding the difference between supernatural and paranormal.
well, definition wise, I guess paranormal is something outside the ordinary. Paranormal, and it doesn't necessarily mean a supernatural event. If you go out of your you go out of your door in the morning and you see a sofa flying through the air, and then going, that's paranormal because it's not normal, right? It's outside of the normal. It's not officially normal because it's unknown what made the sofa go through there. But the supernatural is an objective reality. It's another reality of objectively real entities and beings that we come into contact with. You can have a paranormal experience of the supernatural. You can experience something supernatural, and that will be a paranormal experience for you. But it itself is another realm altogether with all the things that happen in it. So you're experiencing the supernatural, and at least this is in my estimation a whole other world, and your experience of it may be paranormal until you understand it. But that's basically the line of demarcation. Is the supernatural exists whether you believe in it or not, or whether it's normal. It doesn't care whether you think it's normal, it's still there. So that's when
Correct.
you get atheists and skeptics and all that. It's like, well, it's there. What are you going to do? It exists, and it's been proven to exist a lot of times. I mean, a lot of times over history, there's just proof that there's a supernatural. The entire Christian faith or the Catholic faith is based on a supernatural event. Which is you just need to accept it. In all supernatural events, the man Jesus died and he came back and left and went up. So and then he was born and out of a virgin. All these things are supernatural events.
Now,
Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
No, it's all right.
Now, do you think the TV show got it right?
Which TV show?
Supernatural.
Supernatural. And sometimes, but no, mostly because maybe. I mean, I'm not really. I've watched it. I'm not really steeped in the supernatural. What do you call it? Series. But did they get it right? Yeah, I guess these are guys having paranormal experiences of the supernatural realm, encountering the supernatural realm. True Blood got it right. Is it True Blood? Yeah, with the vampires, they got it right too. With fays and wolfmen and all that other stuff. Everything happening to them is paranormal until they understand it or explain it. Like a paranormal, like, okay, the sofa. I saw a YouTube video where people were filming a hurricane or a tornado, and a sofa blew off of seemed to be flying in the air because it blew off of a gallery, like a whatever, up on a building, and it went down, right? So, but it's creepy because there's a sofa in the air. Well, there was an explanation for it. There were, like 90-mile-per-hour winds that blew up the thing and it blew it over there, and somebody filmed it. That's not supernatural. That's natural. That was the wind. Now, if the sofa starts haunting you at night, and it's outside your window at night, in your yard, and it's like the sofa appears, that's supernatural.
Hey, I want that
encounter with the supernatural. There it is. How'd that sofa get here? it flew in, I walked in or whatever. But that's pretty much it. I mean, it's a strange event. And yeah, supernatural kind of got it right because people were experiencing it, and they could have called it paranormal too, you know.
Man, if you ever see accounts like that, you guys call me. Hey, B,
Yes.
man, you live Shreveport. I mean, not
True.
Shreveport.
Lafayette.
Lafayette.
Mhm.
Dude, there's a lot of big trees. A lot
Yes.
of things you can miss and see. It's a lot of things back there you probably don't even know that's back there.
Yep.
Let's talk about Louisiana urban legends. Now, you guys probably have more urban legends than anybody in the country. Have you ever investigated any of them?
No, I haven't. I haven't.
Well, you
Alyne.
mean like the Lugaroo and stuff like
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, I haven't investigated that.
Would you consider it?
Well, sure.
Mm,
I would.
okay,
I wouldn't
cool.
know what I was looking for though.
Well,
Aline knows what all these things look like, these supernatural creatures.
The
I mean,
Lugaroo?
I wouldn't know what I was
Aline?
looking for. Yeah.
normally history has a lot to do with urban legends. And I know sometimes it can get twisted and twist all around and all that stuff, but
Well, Terry, take the Lugaroo, okay? Out in the swamp area where the Cajuns are, it's the Lugaroo, it's the werewolf of the Louisiana swamp. Well, it's interesting when you say history, etc., that area was settled by French people, Acadians and French people that came from continental France and came over here, and they brought their legend of the werewolf with them. And what's interesting though is experiencing that those people, those French people, began to experience the same thing that the French people in France were, experiencing. They brought the werewolf, and the werewolf was there with them. So it's just called the loup-garou. It's called the loup-garou in France too. So they brought their folklore and their spirits of folklore with them. It's the same with the Filipinos that settled in New Orleans. They brought their own folklore with them. And so what you have to like extrapolate is that certain entities, certain supernatural beings, connect themselves to certain groups of people, either ethnic groups or races or whatever it is, and continue to be experienced by those people regardless of where they are. And another phenomenon would be the old hag syndrome, or the as it particularly is experienced by the people from I think it's Laos, yeah, Laotian people that settled over here and came over here when Vietnam went down. They experienced the same thing. They're experiencing that old woman, that old hag that gets on their chest, and it's because primarily they forget the rituals that were connected with keeping that away. They come out of their own country and they leave that behind because they're in the modern world now, and something supernatural now follows them because it's in their blood, it's with them, that is their culture. And there was a big study, at least on that part, where the Hmong and the Laotians were dying from these things that were just folklore back in their country. So they've been looking for connections, but that in the swamp, you can get the loup-garou. Over here, for some reason, it's the vampires. We're gonna get vampires all the time. Everybody's a vampire, but we've got a mix in New Orleans. We've got that whole mix of different cultures. So but there is the connection in just our deep culture, in your folklore, in your legends.
hmm wow, good answer. How do you guys feel about Hollywood? I ask everybody that question. Do you think Hollywood got the way that they, that the way that they perceive paranormal investigators? Do you think they got it right with all these TV
Reality
shows,
TV.
paranormal TV shows that are out here today?
Reality TV has been done to death when it comes to the ghost hunting. Yes.
Well, yeah. And are you going to tune in for like 40 minutes or an hour program and not have something happen? I mean, you have to know this, Terry, and I know Dean knows, and I know it too, that it's kind of boring. investigating sometimes, right? You talk about zingers and stuff, man. Dean would bring this big thing full of snacks and treats and feed everybody because that's how she is. And I'd be sitting there at the cameras, you know, yeah, I want this, I want that, open that. I mean, I didn't
Man Central's full of food. Yeah.
and I got it's still hanging on. But you know, it's boring and everybody sits around like, you know, blinking like owls in the iridescent light here. And you know,
there's only so many questions you can ask, you know.
Yeah, and there's only so many times when something's actually going to happen, because a lot of times it doesn't happen, or it may take you a week to look at the evidence and realize that something happened, but nobody really was, you know, nobody caught it. It was just somehow. So, but they're on TV. They have contracts. You know, they have to.
That's true.
They have to do something for people to continue to watch. You know,
no ratings, no show.
Right, and no TV. You know. That's exactly right. So, but, and I've talked about this with Dean, you know, somebody like Ghost Adventures, they've gone to so many locations. They've been on so long and they've gone to so many locations that the law of averages is that they have caught actual evidence. It's just that you can't tell the way that they present it. But the law of averages says they had to have caught legitimate evidence. I mean, they've gone places that are just inaccessible to the rest of us. So same thing with ghost hunters. I mean, you could see when they did the Myrtles, they were actually surprised that they caught something with the thermal camera outside, you know, and you can tell when they do catch something real. But you just think if you keep going and going and going every place in the world, you're gonna catch something, you know. So that gives them kind of a legitimacy, but it's primarily entertainment. I mean,
but here's the question that I have for you, because you mentioned they've been to so many locations that we would never get into. But isn't that real easy to do? Let's say, for an example, all three of us can get up and we can drive down the street and we can investigate this house and nobody's never been into, and we'll come back and put it on social media. Next thing you know, that house is haunted. Same thing. We go to the next place. Some of these places that these guys have been to, I've never heard of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So isn't it real easy for those guys to say that these places are haunted? Which, you know, the damn store down the street could be haunted and nobody's been. But next thing you know, me, you, us three go in there, we shoot a camera and a couple of videos and say that this place is haunted, bam. Put it on
their own reality show that way.
That's it. That's what I was just about to say. When they started all the shows, especially Ghost Hunters, really blew it up. But it was Fear on MTV that started the whole thing, really. Then Blair Witch was responsible for that. But back when they first started and everybody was watching Most Haunted, Ghost Hunters, Ghost Adventures, this one, that one, remember it was Paranormal State, all these other shows, okay? There wasn't a lot of access to filming your own stuff, having your own channel. That part of it was just starting, okay? So now, yes, now they have to keep up with that too. They have to keep up with content creators like you who may do that, may assemble. We know what Marcus and Paul from Spirit Guides in Lake Charles, they have 3 seasons of the series on YouTube, and people are watching it, you know, so they have that competition. So what I think it did, like getting people in the 28 Days Haunted, okay, we talked with Nick Simmons and we know Jeremy Leonard, and they got legitimate people there. They've got those kind of people who are legitimately like us, actually looking for the evidence and have been involved in groups that were just looking for the evidence. So that, you know, they're kind of like responding to what everybody's doing on YouTube, because I'll tell you the truth. I watch YouTube longer and more than I watch any of those shows. There's channels on YouTube that I just love that have best paranormal content. And, you know, why look at the other stuff? You know, why look at commercials, and why look at, you can tell when they fake it, which a lot of the YouTube, you can tell that too. Okay. But, you know, but some of the stuff is really good and more entertaining than what you get on TV. So they have to respond to that. They have to, you know, tone down they lost the suspension of disbelief, and now they have to like pivot and respond to what other people are doing, because what you're putting up there is what you like. You like to do this, and you put that on your YouTube channel. So they have to learn too.
I am going to do an experiment. I am going to go to a location and just to see if it's really going to blow up. If people, and I'm just going to throw it out there. Hey, you guys come check out this location. It's a haunted location. And I'm going to see how far I can go with it.
Yeah, do it.
And
Absolutely.
just to see how it runs. Because I know for a fact, how many seasons have these guys been into?
Oh my God.
Seasons.
If you think about just the crap that happened in your life along the linear line, they've been, I mean, this is years, huh, Dean? I mean, I'm talking, who was I dating at the time? It's like that long that your kid grew up.
Zach Bagans, you know how much pressure that's got to be, to have to one up your own self.
Exactly.
Yeah, every week.
Yeah.
Every week. You got to be the biggest asshole the week before, and you got to even be even bigger one the following week.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And it's the longer the exposure is, and we get to know them, and then we see some of the stuff that they do, because not everybody's perfect all the time, then it makes you go looking for other shows and stuff. You could blow up on YouTube, seriously, or Twitter or whatever. It could. But when I say that they have access to places that we don't, I mean places like the Tower of London and Pavalia Island they were on, and just these are places remote that they're bankrolled to be able to do it. I mean, what a wonderful life that must be, to be able to travel and go to all these places and all. But on the back end of that is they have to produce for them. So that's the gray area. It's like, I mean, I saw ghost hunters fake stuff. I saw them, and it was at the Myrtles in Louisiana, where they were shocked when they actually got actual evidence outside. And then they had the shadow at the door. I don't know if you remember this, Terry. You have to go look at it. They were coming down the stairs, and there was a shadow by the door, and it was like one of them were like creeping around doing that. Oh yeah, this is definitely haunted. I'm like, all right, okay. I mean, you can see them just faking it, but they're under contract. And I think Grant Wilson got a little bit, had a conscience attack. He had his conscience kind of said, hey, and that's why he walked away, I think, originally, because I think it just got to him. And it was after that episode where they faked some of the stuff at the Myrtles that he kind of shuttled off of it. But,
don't you think it's pretty bad for them having that pressure on them and going into all these haunted places that they can harm themselves?
Absolutely.
Like in a supernatural way.
Yeah, you think stuff ain't following them home?
How you say it? Ryan Buell?
Ryan Buell. He's
his last name. But look what happened to him. I mean, he went downhill fast.
Yes, he did.
And the show did too. So, I mean, you go through all this stuff, get all these ratings, have all this pressure on you just to ruin your own life and not have a show anymore.
Yeah. That would be my next question for you guys. You guys, one of your most haunted locations in Louisiana is the Myrtles Plantation. Now, when Loretta Lynn bought the location, I don't think she had to, I really don't think that she wanted to turn it into a bed, one of those BB bed and breakfast.
Yeah.
I don't really think that was the situation that she wanted to put it in. I think she wanted to keep it mysterious, just the way that it was 30 years ago. When it had that factor, that fear factor where not knowing what's around that corner. Hell, could Chloe be around the corner? We don't know. But now, shit, if Chloe's there, hell, she's probably gone because the way they did it now. I mean, it's well lit. It's a bed and breakfast. Hell, people stay up all weird of the night. You can't investigate there because people always up.
It takes years to get this into the Judge Woodruff room. Yeah.
And it takes
Is
$1
that
million, $1 million plus insurance bond to even stay overnight in there. And you have to pay employees to stay with you, and you have to pay them their salary, their pay for the hours that they're worked. But I think you mentioned Loretta Lynn. She's not connected to the Myrtles. She had that haunted plantation up in Kentucky. So I think she's there. She is. She had that haunted house. But no, it's owned by a family called the Moss family, I think.
Are you sure?
Tina
Yeah.
Moss?
Tina Moss and them. Yeah, I know. I don't. You can double check me, but I don't think it before she died that she.
Loretta Lynn owned that place
No,
a couple years ago before she
no,
sold it.
I don't think so. You can check me on that, but I don't think she did. But she is connected to a haunted house. She bought a house that was extremely haunted. It was an old plantation home in Kentucky, which was on a huge property that she bought that had included, I think, her old family home. But I think you got the two mixed up. But either way, the thing about it, Troy Taylor did an amazing deep dive into all of the claims about the Myrtles. And so when I say things about it, I couch myself in what he already discovered and other people had. The main stories are questionable. That they didn't happen the way that that they claim that it did. There's a lot of people in one camp. There's a lot of people in another camp about the particulars of it. But is it haunted? It's haunted. Yes, it's haunted. It's just not haunted in the way that they tell you that it is. That's why when ghost hunters went there and they got the thermal evidence outside, they got evidence. They have people backing that up with video and actual, 35 millimeter film captures of soldiers that were billeted there during the Civil War. It was a Union provost point. It was a Union headquarter point, and there were all kind of skirmishes around St. Francisville with the Confederacy, but they held it. I mean, they had it pretty early in the war, and so their soldiers walking sentry duty are supposed to appear all the time, and people catch it a lot. But inside, like the guy did not. They said, somebody died on the steps at a certain step on the stairs, but he didn't. He was shot outside and died on the steps outside. And the whole Chloe thing, there's, I don't want to get up here and open myself up to anything, but you just need to check into what Troy Taylor did. That photo, when they bought, the Moss family bought the Myrtles, the family that owned it before had family stories about a ghost that was already there. And it was a woman, and she would be seen wearing a green apron and, the scarf on her head. And she would go around at night, the ghost, and tuck them all in. They didn't have a name for her as far as I knew. That ghost was connected to that family before it was sold to the people that own it now. Some people say that the people that own it now just took that story and ran with it. Okay. And now they ran right into whatever with it and have exaggerated it so much that, they've become millionaires off of that place. But if you look, yes, there's a female ghost. Yes, she comes and tucks people in, but it's the same spirit that was there when that other family was there. And she was like a beloved housekeeper of the family way back in the generations. So you have to believe outside, definitely haunted. The pond area and the caretakers area and some of those cabins, definitely haunted. Inside, haunted, probably more haunted because people go in there believing it's haunted. They come in expecting to see it. But the mirror, that's Louisiana weather. That's condensation behind a mercury mirror. And they don't change it every 2 years like they say. And that foyer area, there's so much coming and going from the inside out, and there's no air conditioning in there. So it's, it's got funny looking things on it, but I've got mirrors too that, have mold on the back of them, and you could see it would do the same thing. So, you just can't go in there and swallow the whole tail. And a lot of people do.
I've done a couple of investigations there, and I've got some pretty good evidence. More outside, though.
Yeah, more outside. They made up all kind of stuff. I mean, I'm sorry to say it, but, there are graves way in the back where nobody can go. There are graves back there. And Woodruff, the man, and his oldest daughter came to New Orleans, and they were buried. He was buried. Well, they were both buried when they died in the cemetery that is under the Superdome. They left. They sold the Myrtles and came down here and lived on Rampart Street and were buried there. So, I'm just saying, if you want to go and spook yourself out, and it is haunted, and it's probably more haunted now, but by other things. But that whole story that they made up, and they continue to do it, and it can create a lot of division. It can create a lot of problems and a lot of, frustration and resentment that is unnecessary because, it's not true. It's not all true. It's been blown completely out of proportion.
Wow, interesting.
I don't think it's Loretta Lynn, though, Tara. Did you look it up?
I'm in the process of looking at
I didn't hear that, but I could be wrong. I don't know.
she has so much.
She was very into the paranormal and the supernatural, Loretta Lynn, because she lived in that house, but she had experiences her whole life, she said. But that house in particular was one they converted from a plantation home, and she knew all the ghosts. She knew them all by name. So, but if she bought it, or her family might have bought it, I don't know. That's something I didn't hear about.
Because I don't know, for some reason I always thought she was the owner of that plantation.
Probably because you heard the haunted connection to her, and she was on some show they had her on. You remember that, Dean? There was some show where they did a whole tour of her house, and she told all the ghost stories, and they even had an investigation, I think, at one point, but I can't remember the name of that show.
No.
Yeah, and I think the caretaker of that place at the Myrtles, I think she's still around. I don't think she does it anymore, but I
think
forgot her name.
Hester, I think.
There you
She's
go.
been there for years and years and years. Now, something that happened to me at the Myrtles. This is why I say the outside. I have a camera. It's a 35 millimeter camera I got when I was 14 years old. I got it because I wanted it because I was going to concerts. I took all my pictures with it. I was at Led Zeppelin concerts, and I was like a Palmer and squeezed in, and never had a problem with loading my film, unloading it, even. And I went there, so I made sure, it's a manual camera. So when you advance, you see the film. You'll see the thing turn in the cartridge. And we were there too early for a tour, so I decided I'm going to take some pictures out here, just outside, and going through the windows and stuff. Did the whole thing, watched it the whole time, rolled it all back like I normally do. That, I've done a million times. Took out the little thing, put it in its, and then we went in and did the tour, and I had another roll of film. That roll of film, not the second one, but the first one, completely blank. Nothing. They brought it in to get developed. Not a single picture came out. And there was no way for me to manipulate. The lens cap wasn't on, so, I've done that crap in the dark so many times. I knew, but here I was watching my own camera, and you have to, it's none of that automatic stuff. You have to do everything. But then the pictures I took inside, because like they tell you don't take pictures, but you hang back and you're like, you take. Those came out, and all the ones of the little girls that my daughter and the other little girl was with us the rest of the day, and all that all came out. But that first roll that was just outside,
nothing.
Oh, total blank. So there is activity going on there. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that some of it has been sensationalized to the ad nauseum. You know
what? You're gonna say and do whatever you need to do to get.
Unfortunately. But it's the experience that people pay for, and it is haunted. They've got ghostly activity. I can't say it's not. So.
Okay. Well, hey, you know what? Hey, B, check this out, man. If I was to come to Louisiana and I didn't want to pay, like everybody in Texas want to go to these expensive haunted locations, where would you send a person like me that don't want to spend any money, but I want to investigate in Lafayette?
Probably the graveyards, cemeteries, because everywhere else you'll have to pay.
Wow. Now, tell me a little bit about y'all cemetery. A lot of people say, man, that's just a place where people go to rest. And a lot of people say, oh, hell no, let's back this conversation up. A cemetery is very active. What do you think?
Well, not all are very active, but some are. And I guess it depends what you go in there looking for. I have a photograph of my cousin Daniel. He's a medium here. And the photograph was taken from me with a 35 millimeter camera at night. And he's talking to somebody by a grave. And I'm like, who are you talking to? And he held his hand out. And he said, I'm holding this little girl's hand. I actually have a photograph of the little girl holding Danny's hand.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
He's the real deal. Yeah.
So
what was the conversation about? Did he disclose that to you?
No, he talks to spirits. So he was just conversating with the little girl. But she had a dress on. You can tell, I mean, you can tell all the features and stuff. But I've never encountered anything bad in a cemetery. Never.
Yeah, me neither. I've never encountered anything bad, you know.
I'm not out there provoking either. You know, they do have some people that do that, and that's not right.
Very respectful. You have to be.
There's a guy on YouTube called Franco. Have you watched him?
Did you say Franco TV?
Yeah. He kept filming. He came down here and he did a live stream, and he was running around in Metairie Cemetery. Now in New Orleans, the cemeteries in any city basically show you the growth of the city. You know, so that was where the edges of the city were, and then that, you know, and then you have other cemeteries. When New Orleans, we got this intersection between Canal Boulevard, Canal Street, and City Park Avenue. It's a big crossroads, and it's nothing but cemeteries. And on the other side, well, basically just over the parish line, is Metairie Cemetery, which is the one with the huge, beautiful monuments, and you see it all the time. Well, he was poking around up in there, and they had homeless people sleeping in the cemetery because it's not hard to get in it. It's high, but you can go right in through the fence, and they find a way. And he was chased around up in there. So, and I was in the comments telling him, get out of and go over to with me and a couple other people who were local. He didn't know where to go, how to get away from it all. So I'm trying to tell him, go to the other cemetery, which is Lake Lawn next to it. So he didn't have enough of that. Then he came back a couple of times, and I kept telling him about Holt Cemetery, Dean. But he kept filming. He was filming now at Lake Lawn, which is next door to that. And it's my parents right there on the corner by my parents' grave. And he kept filming and filming. And then he was by my grandparents. And I was telling him, I was like, stop filming my parents' graves and saying there's voodoo in the cemetery. He came and he was faking it. He was putting little voodoo. There's no voodoo in those two cemeteries. And I was like, you're an idiot, because right up the road is Holt Cemetery. Okay. His mama was on there, all worried about him and all. It's like, he needs to get out of that neighborhood now. And that was
the cemetery where Nicolas Cage has the pyramid tomb.
Oh, he has that. That's in St. Louis, number 1.
St. Louis.
Okay. That's where Marie Laveau's tomb is. You can't get in there now without a tour guide. Or if you have a dead family member that you're going in there for, you have to be able to go in there. That's how you get in there. Because a few years ago, maybe 9-10 years ago now, a guy took a can of pink paint, Pepto-Bismol pink,
yeah,
and thought he was doing a good thing. He was kind of, and he painted her tomb pink because he saw all the X's and the marks and everything, and he painted it this glaring Pepto-Bismol. He painted another tomb too that he thought he was doing a good thing. But what happened was the pink sank into the plaster, so they couldn't just paint over it. It sank into the plaster that was over the stone. So it cost the archdiocese over $10,000 to refurbish the tomb. So that's when they said, security cameras are going up, the doors are locked, you can't get in here unless you got family in here or you're with the tour guide. So it's the only way you can access. And Nick Cage, he's like, if you're standing by Marie Laveau, he's like right over there, like 2 rows over, and he's got this white pyramid looking thing. He bought a spot that was empty, that they had that the tomb, the actual tomb that had been there, had fallen into disrepair, so they cleared it, and he bought that spot. And I was standing there one day. This is when the booths were in the cemetery, and I'm standing there looking at his tomb. This guy comes up. He's got, I couldn't have planned this better. A Hawaiian shirt, a hat, and a fanny pack and shorts and a camera. And I could tell he's not from here. He says, "What is that?" And I said, "That's Nicolas Cage's tomb." And he says, "Is he dead?" No, he said, "Is he in there?" Looking at this guy like, Nick Cage isn't dead yet, I don't think. And I said, "I don't know." And I went up and he's like, don't knock on the grave. And I said, I'm knocking on an empty grave, okay? He's not in there. He's in Hollywood or wherever the hell he is, or appearing to this woman who used to tell me that he showed up at night in her house and took her places flying. I was like, he's not in there, okay? He's not in there, but it's glaring white. Like Jesus can see this tomb, okay? It is white and it's a pyramid. It's really nice. But one time before they closed the cemetery, somebody was walking along the outside, and it wasn't night, it was day, but there was a girl that was walking, and I don't know where she was going, but somebody jumped over the wall of the cemetery. That's my dog. Somebody jumped over the wall of the cemetery and came down in front of her and scared her to death. And it turned out to be Nicolas Cage. And he said, "Come and see my tomb." He tells this total stranger, "Come and see my tomb." He helped her back over the wall, and he jumped over the wall, and they went in and seen his tomb. But he wants to be buried here. So that's where he's going to go. At the time, he owned the LaLaurie house, but he doesn't anymore, but his grave's still there.
Interesting.
Crazy.
B, Lafayette, tell me, because like I say, my son went to school there, and I really wanted to investigate it,
Did he go to UL?
No, he went to the community college right across the street from UL.
Okay.
And he's, like I said, he went to school there for 2 years. And man, is there anything in that town that's available where you're not spending $400 and $500? Because I'm really curious. I'm really thinking about going there and investigating but it has to be worth the money.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I understand that some of these locations you want to pay for the upkeep, but man, it's got to be something there that I can go investigate, find some good evidence, possibly, because we all know you might win some, you might lose some on that one.
Well, we have a lot of plantation homes out here, historical homes and plantation homes, and a lot of them are businesses. But that's the problem. Some of them don't want to be known as being haunted, which everybody knows they're haunted.
Mm-hmm.
They feel like they're going to lose business if we do investigations there. So,
wow.
Yeah.
And one thing I noticed about Lafayette, it's a lot of old money there.
Yes.
A lot of retirement people live in that.
Yeah, there was sugarcane too. I mean, that's how they made their money out there. The cane fields. Yeah.
And it's just one of those places that you're passing through on your way to Louisiana, to New Orleans. You want to stop, hang out, see what the town's about, learn the history a little bit, figure something out, and just go investigate for an hour or two without spending that big money.
Well, let me know when you're on your way, when you want to come, and we'll plan something.
And I want some good food.
But they have that here too. Yeah.
What about you?
Me?
You cook good food?
I do, they say. I hadn't killed anybody yet.
Man, wait. If I come, the whole team is coming. And we definitely want some good food. And why not start with you?
She says she doesn't cook good, but she does. But she's a good baker.
Hey,
You want to go somewhere free over here. You can't beat the cemeteries. I mean, in New Orleans, you really can't. Everywhere is haunted in New Orleans. I'm serious.
Man.
You can just walk around at night in the French Quarter, and you could be catching you. There's a cemetery called Holt Cemetery, and it was a pauper's field. It's a bury your own cemetery where it was owned by the city of New Orleans, but the Save Our Cemeteries kind of took it over. But before they cleaned it up and refurbished it, it's called the Voodoo Cemetery because a lot of people went there. It was right in the city, right, easy access, and they went out there and they did their voodoo. And you could find knives stuck in trees, mayonnaise jars with all kind of stuff in. They had a stump at a triple crossroads where they had all kind of offerings to Hecate, and then they had a rooster in there that was apparently alive for 100 years that they called Papa Legba, and probably still is. But we've been there. Dean and I have been there several times. It's sad, but the way that it works is if there's an open plot and you want to bury your family member, then you can bury your family member for free. You have to do it though with a backhoe or shovels or whatever. And as long as you keep up the plot, years and years, you can continue to bury your family there. So that's how that works. You don't have to pay for the plot. You just keep it up. And as your family dies, you can go in there. But what happens is you have to dig. If, Uncle Joe went in there and now Aunt Mary's got to go in there. You got to dig it up, break up that coffin. And a lot of what you'll find when there's new burials, especially bones, teeth, skull fragments.
Don't take them home, whatever you do.
All mixed in the mud. But, I tell anybody that goes there, don't take anything from that cemetery unless you find it sitting in the middle of the road. Now, somebody did pick up a card. Okay, it was a playing card and it was sitting in the middle of the road. I was like, yeah, that apparently you need to take that. So he took that. But otherwise, especially that cemetery, because it is so full of voodoo. It is so full of just workings in there because it was
People
easy.
are not embalmed in that cemetery.
That's true. There was a controversy with a girl that lived near there who wasn't from New Orleans, but she was going in there and taking bones and selling them on the internet till she got caught. Yeah. She was selling bones on the internet. And yeah, she got caught doing it and got in trouble. I don't know what they did if they put her in prison or whatever. I don't know what the charge would be, but I guess desecration and desecration of a corpse or whatever. But she got caught.
Well, there was people that Alyne had warned not to take things out of that cemetery, bones, teeth, whatever, fragments of a human body. And they did. And bad things came to them.
And to the people around them.
And to the people around them.
Death just followed them all around.
They got sick and all kinds of things.
Yeah. But, it's common sense. Don't go taking remains from cemeteries. It seems to be common sense, but some people just don't care. I would never.
You left your shoes in there, remember?
Yeah. I left my shoes. My shoes got stuck in the mud. No, I left my shoes and 15 cents at the gate, and I went and got some flip-flops at the Dollar Tree. I was not taking, and I shake the dirt off my feet from hole. Now that was a couple of years ago, I have to admit, and they've cleaned it up, and I don't know how clean they've made it. I don't know if it still has that quality to it. I know it's still a pauper or bury your own, but I don't know if it's as, I don't know, character or is, as voodoo-y and kind of creepy as it used to be. I don't know because I haven't been there, but still, the fact is, don't take bones and don't take teeth. And I was trying to go across a ditch and I got stuck in the mud on a grave and I had mud all over and I almost fell back and I was able to save myself, but I took those shoes off right at the gate and I called a voodoo priestess that I know and I was like, what do I put? What do I do? She's like, well, leave 15 cents. I said, well, I'm leaving my shoes and 15 cents. So I pounded out 15 cents and left them there. And I was like, I went to the Dollar Tree and got some flip-flops. I'm serious. I'm not going to drag that back up in my house, You
want to take that chance. I don't blame you on that.
So that's all kind of other people's magic, and they do it there, so it isn't near them,
Yeah,
so I was like,
then you don't know who's in what grave because the way it's marked, like one grave may have a boot upside down on a stick. They may have a baby's crib upside down for the square of the tomb, PVC pipe. That's how they mark their graves. There's no names.
Yeah, so
Wow.
I would take you there if you got over here, and then to the other cemeteries around there. And that's a good start. But walking around, I mean, New Orleans, it's like everywhere is haunted, really.
Yeah, it sounds like it, man. Whew, I mean, since Katrina, do you think New Orleans has got even more haunted, considering what happened to in Katrina to previous?
Yeah, I think so. I believe so. Because during Katrina, someone told me that they were getting 911 calls from areas that were already underwater, that had been
Hmm.
underwater like for days, that nobody no and from the houses, like the landline phones, they were getting them at the 911 because they were forwarding all the 911. The emergency center got flooded too, so they had to forward all the calls to another location, and they were getting calls from areas that just didn't have people in them. And it what happened with Katrina, um, they evacuated for the first time. They evacuated the whole city, and they were a little late on the draw on that. They shouldn't have waited as long as they did. But the people in the French Quarter felt kind of confident because they're higher up. It's really the highest point in New Orleans, so they didn't think, that they were going to be having flood problems. But it was the wind and the direct. They thought they were having a direct hit before it made that little jog. So they did evacuate the French Quarter and the surrounding areas. And when we go back to the voodoo, in New Orleans, there's a voodoo altar here in somebody's house. There's voodoo altars over here. There's, Sally Ann Glassman's Island of Salvation. She's got all those voodoo altars. The old temple where she does her rituals, where she used to live, she's got all those altars. Sister Miriam had all her altars in the place on Rampart Street. And over here was this one and this one and that one, and the people in the stores. And all these altars are fed. They give offerings. They feed off the energy that visits them, the people that visit them, the money people put down and leave, or the little offerings. They're fed continuously. And these are spirits that are hungry and like they have to be fed. They constantly want that energy. Well, what do you do when you have a voodoo altar where you have all these Loa and spirits attached to it, but you're not feeding it? Well, that's what happened. They couldn't get back in for like three weeks, couldn't get back into the city. And
Hmm.
that's what happened. All those spirits, not only that, Bourbon Street full of addictions, gambling, sex addiction, drinking, everything, drug addiction, all those spirits that go around and cluster around all the people that come down there, they had nothing to feed on. Terry, there was literally darkness over the city. When we finally were able to like go and start taking drives around, my daughter and I went to see the French Quarter. And she remarked to me, she's like, Mom, it's dark, but all the lights were on, all the street lights and everything had electricity, but it was this pall of just darkness that was, so thick it was like a fog of darkness, just you felt it. And that was why. And so anybody that was here when everything else was evacuated, that they got attacked by the spirits. But when people started to come back in and were, back practicing their practices and doing, some of the spirits got, reprieved, but a lot of those spirits went and jumped on National Guardsmen and other people and rescuers and all this other stuff. So, I mean, I think, yeah, with the amount of dead too, people that just died in the city, yeah, it's a lot more haunted. A lot more spirits have been added to that.
Now, do you think because you know, some people, I'm not going to say all, some people say that New Orleans, Louisiana as a whole state is the haunted dog capital of the world. Do you believe that?
A haunted what? Dog?
The haunted dog capital of the world.
Doll. Oh,
Oh,
okay.
doll. I'm like dog. No, DOLL, doll.
It could
Yeah.
be dogs too. You never know. I think that must include the voodoo dolls and stuff like that, maybe. But
Yeah.
they've got, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would believe it because there's a lot of collectors, of those things here.
Yes.
But I hadn't heard that, but I'm sure it probably is something that, that goes on there. Yeah, I'm sure there's collectors and people down in the French Quarter and all that have their doll collections. None that I've heard of, like big collections, but maybe. Now, I know probably why you're hearing that, though, is that Anne Rice used to have, when she was alive, she bought, it was St. Elizabeth's Children's Home that was on Napoleon, uptown near center of the city. And she had all of her dolls in there. She put all of her doll collection into that building. And she said herself that she and her husband didn't like to be there like at night or after dark, or they had to go through and turn the lights out and all. She didn't like having to be there. Now that might be why people think that we're the doll capital. And I think those dolls just went back to, her, into her possession. And then, now her family has them. But I think that might be why they're saying that, because she did have a whole huge collection, and it was creepy too. Creeped her out. When you can creep Anne Rice out, I mean, that's creepy. Okay, so that might be what you heard, though.
Now, tell me, it does, because I hear a lot of story about that tombstone, that the witch lady that's into one of those graves, you got to go leave her an offering.
Marie Laveau, yeah.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about her. People say she's a myth. Did she really live?
Yeah, she did. Excuse me. She did live. Yeah, she died in 1881. She lived through, she was born, I think, at the end of the 1700s, close to the early 1800s, but she was old when she died. She was a real person. She had a daughter named Marie, but first she married one, had a couple of kids, or with that person, and then she married into the Glapion family, which is the name that's on the tomb in St. Louis number 1. She had a daughter. Her first daughter was named Marie too, and it was not unusual for families at that time to call their children Marie something else and then call them by that second name, because they were dedicating them to Mary, the Blessed Virgin. They would do John or James or something like that in front of their sons. But so she had a daughter, and over the time, these two have gotten kind of like one to create the legend, because the mother, by all accounts, was a religious woman who went to church every day at St. Louis Cathedral, who helped the sick, went to charity hospital, helped with the poor and the sick, and she knew she had like a root worker's knowledge. It's like an old, like the old work of, root work and just basic hoodoo light, I guess I would call it. But her daughter is the one who saw the value in what the reputation was, like the idea of them practicing voodoo. She's the one, it's said, who turned around and made a profit on it. She's the one who is connected to Marie Laveau's House of Voodoo. She was the one, they said, who was the hairdresser. There are different accounts. They say the mother was, she was, they could have both been, but the daughter turned it into the entertainment that it is, or the flashiness of it. She saw the value. Marie Laveau used to attend these on June 24th, is St. John's Day. They used to have rituals down there, ceremonies to celebrate St. John's. And it was connected, apparently, recently I found out her celebrations were connected to Juneteenth and the Emancipation. I didn't know that, but that's a little known fact. But she would go to those, but it's the daughter who was the one who would go to Congo Fields or Congo Square. I call it Congo Fields because originally it was Fields, and do the dancing with the snake and the drums and all that. And she would get the money from everybody coming to see, like an act. So the two have kind of like melded together. But the mother is the one that is allegedly buried in the tomb in St. Louis number 1, whose tomb was painted pink, and now you can't mark on it anymore.
Yeah.
It used to be all
What location in New Orleans would you say is the most haunted in your city?
Jeez.
Cool.
Yeah.
The whole city.
a whole city, but
But there's one that really stands out, and I'm gonna see if you gonna say it.
well, it's a matter of opinion because everywhere is haunted. But I tell you what, the upstairs, that's pretty haunted. They didn't get rid of those spirits there, and the angry spirits, and some original spirits that were probably already there, they went up to the third floor, and they're still there. That's a very haunted building right there.
The
But
third
shoot,
floor
I
is
mean,
still vacant.
hotels. I mean, come
Hey,
on.
if I can
Everywhere.
tell you guys a location that it's number one in the New Orleans most history location, I want you guys to stand up and clap for me. Okay? Because you guys, once I say this, you guys are really gonna say, yes, you're right. You ready?
Yeah.
Charity Hospital.
Yep. Absolutely.
Charity
Not
Hospital
standing up, but
Which one is that? The
Charity is in the middle of the city, and
what was it
during
called?
Katrina got shut down. It's like it's on Tulane. I think it's on Tulane.
Yeah, because Tulane University took over Charity Hospital.
Yeah, but I think it's I don't know. It might be on LaSalle Street. I'm trying to think of the streets that intersect. You can see it from the interstate, but it was you're right, and I got to give you that. But it's hard. It's hard to get in there. Okay. There are some people that do like abandoned sort of urbex exploration that get in there pretty frequently. But initially, yeah, during Katrina,
Is
it
it
was
Tulane?
what?
Tulane?
Well, no, it's the original charity. Well, not the original. It's the charity that's been there since like the 1920s. I'll send you pictures of it. And every year, somewhere in one of the windows, a Christmas tree shows up, and they're always taking pictures of that. But that's just homeless people. But during Katrina, it was cut off. People died in there. They had to evacuate them. But the whole bottom area, the morgue and all the workings, all of the facilities management area down underneath was full of water. Like to this, they probably drained it out. But up until very recently, when they started going in to renovate the place, it was full of water down at the bottom of the elevator pits and everything. It was, and yeah, I have to give you that, but it's a hospital, so it's going to be, but it's been there for a long time. And the third floor was the crazy people ward, and that was really bad. That was bad when it was open. It was
Yeah.
bad. When
that place, when I first went there, I've never seen double-sided doors that thick.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, why are these doors? I'm used to like a regular door or a regular commercial door, but dude, I've never seen doors that thick. Like, dude, you can get in, but you're not getting out.
And the windows used to have not the chicken wire, but that that kind of grate on the in between.
And you know what? And the mental ward is something within itself.
Yeah, it was. And you see, Dean, that was the hospital. It was whenever anybody got killed in the street, car wreck, if you're injured and they have to come get you in New Orleans, and it doesn't matter who you are, they would take you to charity. Everybody would go to charity, and all the police, they would, if they had to bring a perp in, or somebody that got injured or was somebody tried to kill them, it was where they routed it. But after Katrina, now they had to split it between a couple of other hospitals, and Tulane's like the major hospital now. The building, believe it or not, they're going to try and renovate this thing. It's an Art Deco building. They're going to try and make housing out of it.
Oh,
They want to do a village. Listen to this. They want to do like a village type shopping area down on the couple of floors, like boutique. They want to do a boutique hotel and condos that you can live in it.
You know what? I would give anybody, whoever decides to live there, they're not going to stay there long. I can almost guarantee you.
just during the renovations, they're going to get run off.
Yeah,
they're going to get run off.
Constantly, they seem to be encountering problem after problem. You know what I mean? Like they've been doing this for a long time and have made not a lot of progress. And I wouldn't, not if they gave it to me for free, would I live there? No way.
No, I wouldn't live
Absolutely.
there.
That was a
There's no
place.
way.
I mean, it was charity was its name because people who didn't have the money but needed an operation, there you went. But it was typical of like the old hospitals where they have like wards, like in The Exorcist when he walks in and there's beds all over and people in multiple beds. That's how it was because it was a charity. I mean, it was you couldn't. I mean, if you needed it, you had to go there. But it was open wards and
Kind of
no
remind me of
no
Waverly
privacy.
Hills.
Yeah, yeah, but not. I mean, that was like a sanitarium type thing.
And it was,
But that
and what's
was
so crazy
isolated.
about charity's right here. You see the conditions that hospital was in. But if you
Mhm.
go across to West Bank, dude, the hospitals look fabulous over there.
Yeah. Well, the West Bank didn't flood like New Orleans did. The
I
West
mean,
Bank was
oh,
that area was pretty, you know, and they were using the West Bank as a staging area right after Katrina to go into the city. Like the fire department, especially, they were all in the West Bank, so they could go over go over to whatever. If they had a couple of huge fires right after Katrina, but the problem was that the firemen were getting shot at by the
oh
people.
damn.
By the people, yeah, they were shooting at them. And then they finally told them, we're not. They told the city administration, we're not going to go to any more fires unless we can carry our own protection, because the
Exactly.
police obviously were everywhere. I mean, there's a famous footage of a cop on Canal Street with a double barrel shotgun that was his own gun, who saw some looters and he cocked that gun and he said, "Put it down." You could tell these were not like issue. These were not like NOPD issue. So the
Mhm.
same thing, because the West Bank was kind of, there were areas, but they were kind of okay right there on the side right across from the city. So they used that as a staging area. But I'm gonna tell
That is
you, any hospital down there. I mean, any hospital that took in Katrina. Katrina added it added a whole new bunch
oh,
into
I bet.
it.
Because the minute I heard that Charity Hospital closed down, which I think was
Mhm.
last year, am I right?
Yeah. What, last year?
Yeah, when did that hospital? When did
Oh,
Charity
it's been
officially close
closed since
down?
Katrina. Since Katrina.
Okay, well, this is the first time that I've heard of it in Texas. I mean, it might have been out there, but this is the first time I heard of it. You know what? I was ready to go. I actually put up a sign like, "Hey, who wants to go investigate Charity Hospital? Let's go."
I might
You
be
know,
able to get you in touch with somebody, but it's not anybody in the city, I don't think. but
well, see,
well, I don't think I'm just going to kind of like hand you off to some people who did some urbex in there. That's all. I mean, not
yeah,
paranormal, but you
because
know,
what I was thinking was I was gonna go down to New Orleans, pay a couple of people that can get me in, a couple of homeless people that been there, and bam, I'm in there and I'm investigating. But what got me is, like you said, it was shut down. And Charity Hospital is how many floors?
oh God, I don't know really.
That's the one thing that,
Maybe like 15
yeah,
or 20 floors above ground. Yeah. Maybe about 15 floors all
15.
total.
Who
And
the hell
they had
15?
like three wings to it. Like they had the main one and they had this and that here. But the whole of the third was psychiatric crazy people and the emergency around the back. But yeah, maybe that's too many. Maybe it's like 10 or 12 floors for the
Do you
main
know?
building and the other ones are shorter.
Do you know how many paranormal teams I would have to break with me in order to get that whole thing
That would
covered?
be something for YouTube. There you go. You can get permission and you can go in there. Wouldn't you
And
want to
then
film it?
I would have
There's
to
a
think
great
about
idea.
where
How many
Aaron being
teams?
too.
That would be great.
That would have been an adventure for a lifetime. But I literally would have to rent a damn bus to make sure that everybody,
Do
we
a
can
head
cover.
count for sure. That's no
You
the, the water that went into the underneath part was there for years, and it was until not like I mean I'm talking it was there at least a couple of years ago when they started talking about this renovation. Then they began to pump it out, and then anybody who went in there urbex and was showing footage, they had these huge fans to dry it all out and all that. But but it never seems to have any progress. They never seem to make any headway on doing it. They've got all these plans, but maybe it's simply they don't have the money, to put into it or whatever. But they are trying to renovate it. Every now and then there'll be this little spurt, and then they'll stop.
Yeah, but you know what? Have you guys ever watched Haunted Hospitals?
Yeah.
I can almost guarantee you eventually, I don't know if that show got discontinued or not, but if it hasn't, I can almost guarantee you Charity Hospital is going to be on that show.
Yeah, that was because I can tell you what, even before Katrina, people had stories about the hospital. It was already haunted. It's just been there so many years. And it's just the nature of it that they would bring people, the criminals and just the whole, I mean, it did what it was supposed to do, but, still as a charity hospital, but it saw a lot of trauma coming in there day after day after day, The elevators are not working, John says. No, they ain't working. They had to put things up to keep people that went in there poking around looking from falling down in the shaft where they had water. So they secured it. But some, there's some homeless people that find their way up in. Somebody puts a tree up every Christmas in one of the windows. And when it started, everybody was like, the shit, who is that? Oh, everybody was scared. There's a tree in Charity Hospital. Christmas tree.
And I bet you the cop didn't go in there and investigate to see who it was.
Cops will say, look, there it is.
Christmas.
NOPD
that boy.
NOPD means not our problem, dudes. That's NOPD. Yeah, there's a tree up there. Let's go over here. Then I gotta, but seriously, haunted and scary. Mm-hmm.
That, you know what? Even when I went there, something 30-odd years ago. 30 years ago, I went there, and it was creepy then.
Mm-hmm. It was. They had a nursing school that, like, on the next block over, they had I think it was LSU School of Nursing, and they would have to do their like internships and stuff at Charity, and it's the age of it. And then you got to remember, Terry, everything in New Orleans is built on something. Mm-hmm. The municipal auditorium down there by Basin Street was built on the site of the first Orleans Parish prison. The municipal auditorium and the Theater Performing Arts were built on the location of the first OPP, the Orleans Parish Prison. And the story goes, there was a lynching of 11 Italians after it's called Who Killed the Chief. And my dad used to say this, and I never understood what he meant. But there was a police chief named David Hennessy. This was in early 1900s, I think. I'm not exact, maybe end of the 1800s on the date. But he was killed and shot, and they thought it was the mafia that did it, because the mafia originated in New Orleans and then spread across America. And they thought it was the mafia, and they already hated Italians. It was like, that was the first wave of, we hate people that are not like us. And they hated the Sicilians and Italians, my family members, my ancestors. And they hated them, and they would go down, and when the boats would come in and they'd throw things at them, just like in gangs in New York, they hated them. So they said it must have been the mafia. So they went and they arrested a bunch of people, a bunch of Italian men. Some of them they let go. 11 of them, they thought they had reason to keep them, but where they originally had them, like in a jail holding, they couldn't keep them safe. So they sent them to Orleans Parish Prison. Well, in the meantime, the city was in an uproar over the murder of the police chief, and it had worked itself up until it was this huge crowd, and they all went down to the OPP and they raided the prison, and they got the Italians out of there. Now, some of them that were held got away. Some of them had to hide and were found, but they got 11 of them. They had a gallows, I think, there already, because I think that's where they did it. They took them outside on the side, but some of them they had to improvise and put them on the trees, and they hung 11 of them. And that's the only lynching that ever took place in the city of New Orleans. The only lynching ever was 11 Italian men. Now, the ghost story is that if you're on a particular night, close to when it happened, on the side of the municipal auditorium building, the faces of the men appear. And you can see them in their agony as they're dying. They appear on the side of the municipal auditorium building. That's the ghost story, because that's where the prison was, and that's where they were hung.
And you know what? And you mentioned that's a little unusual, considering New Orleans is a southern city
Mm-hmm.
and the history of it.
Well, the truth about New Orleans is that they didn't lynch. There was never a lynching. That the families, the Creoles of New Orleans, the French and Spanish families, their enslaved people were to them like family. The reason there is a St. Louis #2 cemetery, there was a #1 and there's a 3, but it's not in that part of the city, is because the families, the Creoles, wanted to bury their servants and their nannies with them in their family vaults, but they wouldn't allow it. The church nor the city would not allow Black people to be buried in that cemetery. So the Creoles started a second cemetery to put them in. They were like family. They were free to go all over the city. They went to the Bamboulas. They had Saturday and Sunday where they would go to dance. They would go have a market in Congo Square. They had church. Now, there were some cases of people running away, taking advantage of it and all, and then the Code Noir kicks in. But that they didn't do it like right away. They didn't say, oh, you ran away one time. But primarily in New Orleans, nobody wanted to run away. They lived in, I'm not saying, they lived in these beautiful homes. The mammies or the nannies would have the children of the family and her own children, and they were 100% trusted to like take them out. They would go play like in the Congo Fields, or they would go play in Jackson Square. They would go with her wherever she did her business. They'd always see little white children and Black children together, holding hands. That's in New Orleans. I'm not talking about the plantations outside. That was a different story. That was less observed and away from people. So there were things but here they were valued as members of their family, and they wanted to even have them buried with them in their own tombs. So when they say, oh, it's terrible, it really was, it was unique here. They had a unique relationship, and a lot of them were freed, even before the Civil War or anything happened. A lot of them were just already freed, considered free. And in a lot of the cases, the fact that they could say, I am somebody's servant, or I belong to this family, nothing would happen to them. You didn't do that. If you do that to someone, you would be dealing with their whole family. So, that clears up a myth of that. But literally the only lynching is the Italians. And people don't know that, but that is true. And that's the ghost story that's associated with it.
Cool. Do you guys have any, because I know there was a lot of Civil War fighting. Do you guys got any historic battlegrounds that are haunted in Louisiana or close to you guys' location, New Orleans, Lafayette area?
What's out in Lafayette?
I don't know.
I think there's
They have one in Lafayette.
In Louisiana, I'm sorry. In New Orleans, we have the Chalmette battlefield is the closest one. Excuse me, and that was from the War of 1812. And that was when we defeated the British, and they were still fighting down there. But excuse me, that's the closest one that we have. But we have Port Jackson, some of the forts down there was Fort Pike. They had Confederates down there. Fort Jackson, there was a battle up around that, which is like Baton Rouge, I believe. And I don't want to get the names mixed up. I can't think of them. But up there near Baton Rouge, that was a mix of the Union encroached early into our area. New Orleans was taken early in the war and was held, so that by Benjamin Butler, Spoons Butler. New Orleans hated him. But we fell early, and then they used the river to go up. So there were, Vicksburg battlefield in Mississippi is not far away. The Fort Jackson, Fort Pike, those are not far away. So, but the main one that is close, like right outside the city, is Chalmette battlefield, where we met the British at the English turn. And, then they have like a reenactment every January of, the fight and everything. And that's the one that John Lafitte, the pirate, was involved in, and had all of the buccaneers or the privateers rather. And he was involved in that war. So that's the closest one. Okay. But they had a battle in Lake Pontchartrain that I learned about later. Lately, there was a battle in the lake I'm pointing because it's that way. But right north of the city, they were fighting in a naval battle, basically right across from New Orleans. So,
Oh wow!
yeah.
All
And
these
the
sports.
Union had the North Shore. They had the area of the North Shore of the lake because they were coming, like I said, they encroached very early. And you can still, there's an old place on the North Shore. It's a bar that was a Civil War hospital. It has a plaque on it, and all of the hurricanes, it stood through it all because it's like solid cement. I don't know what they built it out of, but it's still there. The dive bar.
Now, all these sports are you talking about? Are they in use today? Or are they historical landmarks? What exactly?
Yeah. Fort Pike. I think that's the one out by sort of east of the city. There's one, Fort Jackson is down south, and then there's a Port Jackson, which is north of Baton Rouge on the river. But yeah, they're open. Some of them are historical sites, like you can go to the battlefield, Chalmette Battlefield, and learn all about that. And you have tours, and you can see the reenactment and stuff. So yeah, all you'd have to do is like look it up. But like some of them are actively preserved. A couple of them are in ruins. But you can still go and visit it.
Sound like a prime location for an investigation.
Everywhere is just, in Lafayette too. It's like anywhere that's historical and connected with history, it's got to have something attached to it. If you go there with that intent. But I will say New Orleans is pretty. The area around New Orleans is pretty chock full of it.
Yeah. We've been on the show for 2 hours and 5 minutes. Can you guys believe it? Time has run when you're having fun and you're having a good conversation.
Yes.
Before we get out of here, guys, I just got one question to ask you guys. And I ask all my guests to come on that's on the show. Man, your bucket list. Where would you guys like to go investigate on your bucket list? And you can't say New Orleans.
No, I won't. But I'll let Dean go first.
My number one on my bucket list is Poveglia Island in Venice, Italy.
Okay.
Poveglia, yeah. That was fun.
Number two is Waverly Hills.
Okay.
I'd like to go to Waverly Hills.
Kentucky. Yeah.
For me, Tower of London. That's what I'd like. I'd like to go in there and be let loose in the Tower of London.
Tower of London.
Yeah, I'd like to.
Why that one?
Well, because I'm an Anglophile since I popped out of my mom. I don't know. It must be a past life thing, but it is old. It's been there 1,000 years. It's just so old and so much history. So many people have died there, gotten their heads chopped off. Henry VIII's wives, all these. So it's extremely haunted. But I would say that about almost every place, every castle in England. And my second one, I'd have to go to Italy with you, but I'd like to go instead of Poveglia to the Colosseum in Rome overnight.
I don't hear much about that place. I don't know if a lot of paranormal investigators go there and investigate it.
They should, but I think it's hard to get into. But it's now like the areas where they kept the gladiators and everything are exposed, and the animals. They say people have gotten in there and they say that they have recorded animals like the lions growling, and you can hear the marching of like the gladiators and the fighting. So that would put me there. I guess I'd be while you're in Poveglia, we'll be at the Colosseum. Team effort.
Yes.
Well,
And Waverly.
I think I've tried to keep the two. I would like to go to Island of the Dead in New York City. That's where they put all the COVID people at, all the homeless COVID people.
Yeah.
And I would like to go to France. I would like to go to Normandy Beach and investigate that.
Absolutely.
Oh my God, can you imagine having a 60 cow coming at you and you're 18 years old and you don't know what the hell you're doing there?
I don't know. I don't know how people. I always say whenever I watch Band of Brothers or I see that, or I always say I don't know what it is. People like to blur the line between men and women, but men are hardwired different than we are, and I don't know how. I don't know how they did it. They knew,
I don't know.
They knew They were, the chance of getting killed was like right there. And they did it anyway. They stormed
Yes.
that beach. They, you know, and every time I think of it, and this is any battle really, it, you know, our men fight our wars, and men are hardwired different than women. I don't know how they get up the courage to do it, but they do it, you know,
Yeah.
thank God. But yeah, that would be, I'm sure,
Yeah.
I would love to
Yeah.
go in that stone, like the battlefield where they had the Battle of the Bulge, or where they were, you know, surrounded. Yeah.
I forgot the
But
name of that.
that's what I mean. Look, they've got people like, you know, what is his name from Ghost Adventures, Zach Bagans and all. They should be sending us. We appreciate it. We should go. That's right. We need a show of our own now. So send us all over.
Right.
Season 1.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm down too.
I gotta lose some weight, but you know, I'll go.
You know what? And these locations we can actually find. Every location that all three of us named, we know something about.
Mhm.
Half the crap that he goes, I've never even heard of.
They
You
just
know,
scrape
except for
in the bottom of the barrel sometimes, I guess. I mean, they've been on for what, 20 years or something? I mean, come on. But
yeah.
you're right. You're right. You can go down the block and have a demonic haunting, the likes of which only the Warrens would ever see, right in your own neighborhood. You know, you could have that, and you know, I mean, scary, scary crap. Just like Dean and I have been talking about, what Dean has experienced, scary. You know, and they don't know about it, but you're helping the people there. But you know, you could have something that you just turns up that rivals all of the, you know, these other places we want to go. But I still think it's time they sent some people who appreciate it.
Right.
You ready? I got my
guys. You know what? I appreciate you guys coming on the show.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, it's been
Thanks
very. I've learned so much about Louisiana. You know, maybe this will be the opening door for other Louisiana paranormal investigators to come on the show. If you're out there, if you're listening and you're watching, if you feel like you want to tell a Louisiana story or something,
I'll send you. Yeah, let's send in some people. Yeah, we have our friends in Lake Charles, spirit guides, Marcus Beebe and Paul Fugate. We had them on our channel. I met them at the Fear Fest convention. I know they'd come on your show. Yeah. So Dean has the contact information. And they're close to you. And you know what they do? They have guest investigators all the time. So they invite people to come investigate with them. So, you know, I know you're in Austin, but it would be, I mean, it's only Lake Charles, so it wouldn't be that, you know, you can reciprocate, you know.
What do they call it? Guestigators?
Investigators.
Investigators.
And they have
it would take me. Wait a minute. I'm trying to figure out how long that would be. How long that would be from Austin to Lake Charles. It takes me 2 hours to get to Austin to. It'll probably take me like 4.5 hours.
Right. Well, some of the places that they've looked at are like in Texas. I think they have some Texas locations. So they don't just stay in the Lake Charles area, but they are a Louisiana team.
Oh, I got to go to Lake Charles.
Lake Charles, I mean, all these places are, you know, pretty haunted. They know where they're going. But their channel is called Spirit Guides, and you can just check it out. Spirit Guides on YouTube. They have three seasons of places that, you know, are off the beaten path, but that are really haunted.
Well, you know what? The best way, I always say, to get the word out, it's only the only way, and that's the word of mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Man, you guys can help me out over there. You guys can send all those paranormal investigators and enthusiasts. Hey, I don't care if you're an urban explorer or one of those guys that set the ground. You know, they kind of help us out a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Even though
have you ever seen Urbex Hill? There's a guy in Khalif. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You got to check him out. I mean, just for the urbex of it, he catches a lot of stuff. But
even he's not even trying to.
Goes in those places just scares the hell out of me. He has caught some really, really good stuff. But he's also, I mean, he does go by himself, and he's run into like, you know, squatters and stuff where his, you know. But yeah, he's got a great channel, Urbex Hill. You know, it's like we should get a bunch of people together and just start, you know, start doing
And
it.
he's on. I see him on Nuke's top 5 all the time.
How many times have you gone to some from Nukes that everybody says, I'm here from Nukes? Who came over from Nukes top 5? It was me.
Yeah,
Like the
Nuke's
guy, I never would have heard about the guy that drives the van, Project Amber, and the girl in the forest in France. Do you remember that one? It was the girl haunted. Yeah. And everybody was saying, who came over from Nukes top 5? I think I sent that to you, Dean, but I can resend it to refresh your memory. But yeah,
Yep.
anyway, yeah, he was the first and the best Nukes. That really was.
Yeah, I kind of Omar. I don't know if you know Omar.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Oh my God! Exactly. Gosh.
They had
Did you see his last Vinci when he went down to Miami to investigate the mall or where the aliens were?
No, I hadn't seen that yet. No,
You have
but I
to check
saw the
that one
thumbnail.
out.
I have to go catch up with it. I watched where he had 16 investigators at 16 locations. That one was really good. It was all these young people, not old like me. So, but it was
the thing
good.
about Omar, I think I think him and Baggins would be perfect together because I think he kind of over exaggerates a little bit. I could be wrong. I guess it depends on who you talk to. Myself, I think he does.
He makes all those strange faces, and I think he does over exaggerate, But he had that one where they had the 16 people, and I actually watched the whole thing. Usually it gets on my nerves, but I don't think anybody was too much faking there. There were a couple that were,
Well, the two that got to me is, before we get out of here, one is when he went to Las Vegas and tried to do an EVP on the street corner where Tupac got shot. Second of all, why would Tupac be on that corner where he got shot? And the second one, when he went to Michael Jackson's Never Never Land and at the front gate and tried to do a session on that. And the second thing, I'll say, well, why would Michael Jackson be at the front gate?
That's Zach Bagans you're talking about?
It's crazy
how they do it. Oh my gosh.
Okay. I was about to say.
Yeah.
Trying to up his own self. Yeah.
Well, we didn't get into it, but there's a whole group of spirits. Spirits love to pretend they're other people, So I don't think he was talking with Michael Jackson right there necessarily. But yeah, he just did a show that I liked on YouTube, and then I hadn't really followed him, but
I had to let him go after that. Actually, my son introduced me to him, and I'm like, okay, I'll watch this guy. He was supposed to get married. I don't know if he got married. Kind of messed his head up a little bit. Then he started doing these weird videos. I'm like, time to go. I mean, I'm not this guy, and Frank, he just traveled the country going from one haunted location to another. What really tripped me out is when he started digging holes over there in Nevada around the Area 51. And that
Franco, he's nuts. He went by Area 51. They'll kill you if you. They'll kill you and bury you right there. Now, one thing that Franco did before we go, that really couldn't have been planned. Okay, he couldn't have doctored this. Was he went to the Chris Watts murder house? Dean, I think I sent you that one. Okay, but where Shanann was and where he murdered his wife and children, and then he stuck them in the oil tanks and buried them out. Well, that house, which has recently been bought, Franco was going somewhere else, and he stopped there in the middle of the night, and he had his thermal out, and he was looking at the house. Now there was no way he could have faked this. Okay. At one point, the wife is looking out the door at him because it had the glass on either side of the door. One point he sees the wife and the two children up in one bedroom over the garage. Now that's the law of averages. That's why I say, if you go long enough to a bunch of places, you're going to catch something real. And I have to give it to him on that one. That one was real because that house is terribly haunted because of what happened there. And they have all kind of other evidence, the police body cam footage catching all the EVPs and all. It's a haunting. So, but otherwise, he's filming my grandparents' graves up in New Orleans and putting voodoo out. Now I'm in the comments going, we don't put voodoo in that cemetery. No, it doesn't. Anyway,
Hey, that was funny. You killed me on that one. I was
it's
laughing.
true.
I'm like,
I said,
dude,
there's no voodoo in that cemetery. I said, you better watch out. Get out of that area because you're going to die.
right? But okay, guys. Hey, you know what? Thank you for coming on the show. It's been funny,
Great.
and I love laughing and just enjoying the moment. And thanks for the history that you guys have shared with me about Louisiana. Now I really want to reach out to more paranormal
Come on
investigators.
down. Come on. Come on
You know,
down.
and hey, and if I ever get down there, my first stop is gonna be in Lafayette.
Look out, Dean. She's
Get me some
ready.
good,
Calm
get
down.
me some, get me some good homemade. Some home cooking.
Cajun food, huh? Get some
Yeah,
Cajun food.
well, I kind of been watching. What is the animals when they kill the alligators? Uh, what's the name of
Swamp
that show?
people.
Swamp People. I kind of watch Swamp People, man, and I'm not too thrilled about some of that.
Well, you won't be at her house, I mean, or at some location. They're out in the swamp. But you know,
You know,
alligators can sprint at 40 miles per hour. They can
but if
sprint.
you can cook some good red beans and rice and some chicken and some cornbread and all that stuff, hey, I'm up for it.
Come to
But
New Orleans and we'll go over there and eat at what is it? Oh, I can't remember. Dookie Chase, I think it's still there. You can get that in New Orleans, huh?
oh,
Anywhere.
hey, you can go to Popeyes, man. That's
Popeyes
get
on Claiborne and Earhart. Claiborne and Washington Avenue is the most popular one. It moves that chicken out of there continually. So it's the freshest
as long
chicken.
as they got that red beans and rice, man. Oh God, and the biscuits. The biscuits are off the chain. I love the
Some
biscuits.
gumbo. He wants some gumbo. How about some turkey and andouille gumbo? That's good.
Never even heard of it.
It's
Me
good.
neither.
It's gumbo.
She said me neither.
Me neither.
You never heard of turkey and andouille gumbo?
No.
Y'all, Thanksgiving, and then you have I have some frozen still that I made. Ooh, it's the turkey and andouille sausage, and you put the turkey carcass in there, and it's delicious. You eat it with wild rice, and
Well, you know what? If we can make a decision to get down there, hey, I'm gonna hit you guys up city by city. Stop
what we
in, say
really need to do
hello.
is get a road trip and go somewhere, and go like to Waverly Hills altogether and film
Well,
it.
see, now you're taking me to Kentucky.
Why not? We'll go from. Well, you can come here
Bucket
first. And
list.
go up. Oh, you know where we got to go? I'll tell you where we got to go. To where
Where?
Robert Johnson sold his soul to the devil. Up in
Crossroads?
Clarksdale, Mississippi at the crossroads. Yeah.
Oh boy, at the crossroads.
See, you hook up with us and you're not going to.
You're in all kinds of trouble.
Yeah, I can tell. I'm not trying. Hey, I'll be drinking that moonshine, and you talking about the Mississippi. I see a big catfish down there. I want to reach down and grab him. Hell, he'd probably take me down instead of me pulling him
Catfish
up.
are too big. Mm-mm. They got big. No, catfish get huge. I didn't know they got that huge. These people that go down and dive by those rigs and all, they say they won't go. They want danger pay for going diving down by the rigs because the catfish are so big. I'm like, catfish?
Yeah, they got big boys.
Everything's bigger down here, I guess.
They got some monsters down there. But okay, guys, you guys enjoy the rest of your evening. But before we go, tell the world how to get a hold of you guys.
Go on, Dean.
You can find me on Facebook under LSPR Society, Louisiana State Paranormal Research Society. My phone number's on there. You can find me under Berndine Richardson on Facebook. My website's not up right now, so you can find me there, and you can find us both on the Supernatural Substation.
That's right.
Her name is one big long name
with no middle name.
no.
Middle name is Dean. That's it. We're co-hosts on the Supernatural Substation on YouTube, so you can find our channel. We're trying to grow it, and little by little, we're also taking some uploads, throwbacks from the old days. But I'm on Facebook, Alyne Pustanio author, where you can find out about my books and the other books I've contributed to. And you can also look for me, just Alyne Pustanio on Facebook. I have a website that is starting to be reconstructed, so Facebook is the best place, or at the Supernatural Substation, which also has its own Facebook page. But either there or there, you can follow me or message me there. But or buy my books. Books make great great presents.
There you go.
Make great presents. So see, I have the poster behind me. Wait, I gotta go that way.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, you can do that, and those are available on Amazon, along with every other thing I've contributed to. So thanks for having us. It's been great.
Yes, ma'am. Hey, man, you guys that are out there listening, man, go hit all these numbers, man. Let's go. Hey, hit the like, share, subscribe for these young ladies. Let's get these numbers up for them. Let's show all that Texas side support that, you guys give to me, y'all give to them also, and let's get these numbers up for them. You know what I'm saying? But in the meantime, this is Terry with NSPS TV Paranormal in the Lion's Den. Hey, I got to go grab me something to eat because these young ladies make me hungry. In the meantime, peace. Hey, you guys enjoy the rest of your evenings.
Thank you.
You too.
Stay in touch. We'll be in touch.
All right. Will do. Have a good one.
You too.
You too. Have a great weekend. Bye.